Brian Keating, John Hoover from AllSooners.com joining us here to talk about bowl games. I want to get to Oklahoma State here. I think one of the most fun matchups of the entire bowl season, John, is Oklahoma State and Notre Dame. I think it's really a cool opportunity for OSU, who's never played the Fighting Irish, to go against, the bluest of the blue bloods, and an opportunity to win this football game. So let me start with this. Oklahoma State, they hang their hat on defense. Jim Knowles, the defensive coordinator, takes off to Ohio State. There's going to be a new defensive coordinator, and how they all work that out, we don't exactly know yet. What kind of loss is that, and can Oklahoma State just one more time find the magic again?
It's a tough loss. It's a tough loss because Jim Knowles is kind of a mad scientist. Mike Gundy used to say he would go into his coach's office. The lights were down, and he would close the door, and they wouldn't hear from him again for a couple of hours. And they're wondering, what's he doing in there? He's concocting some formula, some scheme that's going to shut down the rest of the Big 12 conference. I think he was at the forefront of the Big 12's kind of transformation, if you will, from an offensive conference, a wide open offensive conference, to one that's more defensive oriented, more 3 yards in a cloud of dust, who's going to win the line of scrimmage type conference. That's what the Big 12 became over the last couple of years. Jim Knowles was at the forefront of that. So who's going to do it? Mike Gundy has told us he'll announce it when they get to Phoenix. Okay, they're in Phoenix. Is he going to coach the defense? Is he going to call signals? That's what he's been saying at the press conference. That's something that I might actually pay admission to watch, is Mike Gundy called defensive signals.
I don't know. I think they're the age and experience of those guys. They got a chance to kind of find the magic one more time. They played a ton of football. They've been great all season. We'll find out. Notre Dame doesn't scare you offensively, so I think that gives Oklahoma State an opportunity there. I want to go to the other side of the football, John, and ask you about the quarterback, Spencer Sanders, who, all season we've talked about it. He rides the roller coaster. He's either great or he throws 4 interceptions like he did in the Big 12 championship game. Can Oklahoma State be good enough on defense? Can Spencer Sanders keep from turning it over and just playing OSU out of this thing?
Oh, I think Spencer Sanders is what Spencer Sanders is, and he's a quarterback that's going to put up nice numbers. He's a quarterback that's going to create turnovers, cause turnovers, suffer turnovers may be the best way to put it. Only completed 61% of his passes this year, 16 touchdowns, 12 interceptions. 205 yards per game is pretty serviceable when you add in the running threat. But Brian, when in the biggest game of the year against Oklahoma in Bedlam, in Stillwater, he was really good in the fourth quarter. He was a playmaker. He was confident. You could see him leading that team. You could see kind of an evolution, I think, of him stepping up and talking to his players, talking to his teammates. That was an impressive performance by him. So maybe that was like a touchstone moment where he's going to really take off from that and grow into the final years of his career.
He was pretty good in the fourth quarter in the Big 12 championship game as well. The one thing, 6 interceptions in his last 76 throws. Man, that is just not going to get it done. He's got to stay out of the way, and OSU, I think, is going to have a chance to win this football game. But if he turns it over, they got no chance. So finish with this. Notre Dame, I think it is very cool for OSU to get to play Notre Dame. And if you thought they might be down after the Big 12 championship game, when Notre Dame flashes on your screen and say, that's who we're playing, I think your ears perk up. I don't think they'll have a problem getting ready for this thing. Notre Dame's pretty good on defense. And so 2 good defenses. I think this is one of the more fun football games of the bowl season.
I think you're absolutely right. This is one of the top games of the entire season. And listen, let's see if we can draw a common thread here. Lincoln Riley left Oklahoma. Bob Stoops, interim coach, right?
Mm-hmm.
Mario Cristobal left Oregon. The interim coach at help me out with the name, Brian.
It should have been Chip Kelly, but it wasn't. They're going to have an interim coach.
I agree.
And
Oregon has an interim coach as well, and his name just I've seen a lot today, man. We drove all the way from Tulsa.
It's okay,
so
me
I've
too.
seen a lot of stuff.
I've gone blank. Brian Kelly leaves Notre Dame. They're going to have an interim coach too.
Brian Kelly leaves Notre Dame. Marcus Freeman comes in. He's the interim coach. What else needs to happen for Oklahoma football teams? Mike Gundy is the old guy here. But listen, Marcus Freeman, He's popular with players. The players stood up and applauded when he got the job. That tells you something. You know, kind of like Bob Stoops. When Bob Stoops came in and said, hey, everything's fine, players finally were like, oh, yeah, he's right. Everything's fine. So, listen, their offense is good. Their defense is very good. But I think both can be had. If Oklahoma State plays up to its potential, they're going to cause Jack Cohn, the quarterback, some potential problems. He had 20 touchdowns and 6 interceptions this year, 68% completion. So he's a guy that's very careful with the football, very accurate, but at the same time, I think he can be pushed into mistakes by an Oklahoma State defense that leads the nation tackles for loss and quarterback sacks. So that's a great matchup, man. I can't wait to watch that.
Notre Dame's allowed 23 points in their last 4 games. Now, they didn't play anybody any good. Now, the interesting thing here, John, and I don't know how good Notre Dame is. They haven't played a team with a winning record since October 2nd. It was Cincinnati, and it was a game that they lost. I mean, wow. October 2nd, haven't played a team with a winning record. They've won a lot of football games. We're going to find out how good that football team is. 2 good defenses, 2 offenses that I think you're right can be had. It feels like 17-20, fourth quarter football game, the way it ought to be between Oklahoma State and Notre Dame. John Hoover from allsooners.com. Enjoy the rest of the week in San Antonio. Thank you for being on Crashing the Boards. We'll see you.
Shout out Brian McClendon at Oregon as the interim coach.
There you go.